People often reject INFJs for a variety of reasons, many of which come from misunderstandings and mismatches between the INFJ's inner world and the social environments they find themselves. One key reason INFJs are often rejected is because of their depth. In a world where surface-level interactions, quick judgments, and transactional relationships are common, the INFJ's natural inclination toward meaningful, soulful connection can come across as intense, overwhelming, or simply too much. INFJs often seek to understand people at a core level. They ask deep questions, notice emotional undercurrents, and expect authenticity in return. Unfortunately, not everyone is ready or willing to engage on that level. This intensity can be misinterpreted as manipulative, invasive, or idealistic. Some people might feel exposed or uncomfortable in the presence of someone who seems to see through them so easily. Another reason they are often rejected is because of how they navigate social spaces. While they care deeply about people, they are introverted by nature. They often need solitude to recharge and may withdraw for periods of reflection or emotional processing. This tendency to retreat can confuse or frustrate others, especially those who are more extroverted or socially oriented. Friends, partners, or coworkers might misinterpret an INFJ's need for space as disinterest or emotional distance, when in reality, it's a form of self-preservation. Over time, this pattern can create relational tension, leading others to pull away or feel rejected themselves, prompting a reciprocal rejection of the INFJ. Because INFJs often operate from a deep sense of vision and purpose, they may come across as perfectionistic or morally rigid. They have strong values and an internal compass that drives their decisions. This can make them uncompromising in situations where others are more flexible or pragmatic. When INFJs see something as ethically wrong or emotionally damaging, they may become quietly resolute, drawing firm boundaries or walking away entirely. People who don't understand this principled behavior may view it as cold, judgmental, or inflexible. The INFJ's quiet strength and emotional resolve can be unsettling to those who are used to more outward displays of negotiation or compromise. Their perceptiveness, too, can be a double-edged sword. INFJs are highly intuitive, often picking up on subtle signs, hidden motives, or unspoken emotional dynamics. This makes them excellent at reading between the lines, but it can also make others feel vulnerable or seen in ways they didn't ask for. In social or professional settings, this ability to intuit what others are feeling or thinking might lead to discomfort, jealousy, or suspicion. Some may feel threatened by the INFJ's insight, especially if they aren't ready to confront their own emotions or behaviors. The INFJ might then be labeled as weird, too intense, or overly sensitive, leading to exclusion or emotional distancing. INFJs can struggle with expressing their own needs clearly. They are so attuned to other people's emotions that they often prioritize the feelings and well-being of those around them, sometimes to the detriment of their own. When their needs go unmet for too long, INFJs may become withdrawn or emotionally exhausted, sometimes without explaining why. Others might not understand what caused the shift, assuming the INFJ is being moody or passive-aggressive. In truth, the INFJ may be silently grappling with feelings of disappointment or emotional burnout, unsure how to communicate their inner experience in a way that others will truly hear or respect. This lack of clarity can make them seem unpredictable or emotionally distant, creating yet another barrier to connection. It's also worth noting that INFJs can be idealistic when it comes to relationships. They often envision profound, almost transcendent bonds with others, and may become disillusioned when those ideals aren't met. This can lead to cycles of deep investment followed by quiet withdrawal. People who don't understand the INFJ's inner workings may feel confused by this shift, misreading their protective detachment as rejection, when in fact it's a coping mechanism for unfulfilled expectations or emotional hurt. Socially, INFJs often operate with a soft, reserved demeanor that doesn't command immediate attention. In fast-paced or socially competitive environments, this gentle nature can be overlooked or underestimated. Because INFJs don't typically push themselves into the spotlight or assert dominance in conversations, They may be dismissed as unimportant or invisible. Ironically, many INFJs possess profound insight and quiet leadership potential, but it remains hidden beneath layers of humility and caution. In a world that often rewards confidence over depth and charisma over authenticity, INFJs can be passed over again and again, leading to feelings of rejection that feel both personal and systemic. INFJs have the tendency to mask their inner emotions. Though deeply feeling, they often don't show their pain or distress on the surface. They might appear calm, even aloof, while struggling internally with self-doubt, emotional wounds, or unspoken needs. Because of this, others may assume the INFJ is fine when they're not, or worse, that they are emotionally unavailable or disinterested. When the INFJ eventually reveals their inner world, it can be startling for others who weren't prepared for that level of emotional complexity. Some may not know how to respond to that vulnerability, choosing instead to retreat or create distance. Being an INFJ can be tough sometimes. That's why we have put together resources that will help you navigate your relationships, career, and the INFJ life in general with clarity. Check out our INFJ Master Course and INFJ ebook. You can get them using the links in the description of this video. INFJs also have a tendency to form very specific, idealized pictures of relationships, platonic, romantic, or otherwise. They often imagine the emotional potential in others, seeing not just who a person is, but who they could become. This idealization, while rooted in hope and empathy, can backfire. When others don't live up to the vision the INFJ held, disappointment can set in, and the INFJ might withdraw suddenly or become cold without clearly explaining why. This can confuse those around them, who may feel rejected or judged without knowing what went wrong. From the outside, it may appear that the INFJ is hard to please or emotionally mercurial, even though their withdrawal is often a quiet grieving of lost potential or broken trust. INFJs often don't like conflict. They may avoid expressing their true frustrations until they reach a breaking point. Rather than assert themselves early, they absorb discomfort in silence, hoping things will resolve naturally. When that doesn't happen, and they finally set a boundary or express disappointment, it can feel sudden and jarring to others, especially if the INFJ decides to completely disengage. Because this behavior seems so abrupt, it can cause others to perceive INFJs as distant, cold, or inconsistent, reinforcing the cycle of misunderstanding and rejection. As intuitive types, they are often processing their values, experiences, and aspirations at a deep level, and as a result, they may outgrow relationships that once felt nourishing. Others may feel left behind or judged, sensing the INFJ's emotional or intellectual distance growing. Even when INFJs try to maintain those connections, the lack of alignment can become too painful, prompting a retreat that looks like rejection. In truth, the INFJ is often protecting their inner peace, trying to preserve what little alignment remains without hurting others. But this nuanced withdrawal is rarely understood in the way it's intended. There is also the fact that the world often misunderstands quiet empathy as weakness. INFJs lead with empathy, compassion, and vision, traits that aren't always valued in fast-moving, competitive, or emotionally detached cultures. Their sense of justice and desire to heal, help, or uplift can be mistaken for naivety. In environments where power dynamics, assertiveness, and self-interest dominate, the INFJ's soft-spoken depth may not be respected. It may even be resented. And that resentment can turn into passive or overt rejection, leaving INFJs confused as to why their authenticity and care result in distance rather than closeness. Rejection for INFJs often cuts deep, not only because of the experience itself, but because it touches the core of their identity, their longing to be understood, their belief in the value of emotional depth, and their need for authentic connection. They don't just want to be liked or accepted. They want to be seen, truly seen, for who they are beneath the layers, in their quiet complexity. When this doesn't happen, it reinforces a kind of existential loneliness, the feeling that even when they show up with sincerity, vulnerability, and intention, they're still met with distance, silence, or misinterpretation. One subtle reason INFJs are rejected is because of how enigmatic they can appear. Even though they care deeply, INFJs don't always articulate what they're feeling in ways others can immediately understand. Their emotions tend to run beneath the surface, filtered through intuition and reflection before being shared, if at all. This internal processing can make them appear unreadable. They might smile politely while feeling torn up inside, or offer support to others while secretly needing it themselves. People around them might sense something is off, but not know how to approach them. Over time, this creates a kind of emotional fog around the INFJ, leading to detachment. The rejection here isn't always active. It's a quiet drift away, born of confusion or discomfort. INFJs are also often misunderstood because they embody contradictions. They can be highly sensitive but emotionally strong, compassionate but fiercely independent, warm but distant. These seeming paradoxes can confuse people who are used to more consistent emotional patterns. For example, someone might experience the nurturing, empathetic side of the INFJ and assume they're completely open and emotionally accessible. But then the INFJ withdraws to protect their energy or process an emotional overload, and the person feels abandoned or confused. The disconnect between perception and reality can lead others to feel betrayed, even though the INFJ was only honoring their inner rhythm. Instead of asking why the INFJ pulled back, people often make assumptions, and those assumptions fuel rejection. Another deeply painful experience for many INFJs is being categorized as too much in emotionally shallow environments. Their depth, introspection, and sensitivity are gifts, but these qualities are rarely understood by those who prioritize pragmatism, simplicity, or surface-level comfort. The INFJ might bring up topics others avoid: grief, authenticity, spiritual questions, emotional wounds, not to stir drama, but because they live in a world where those questions are ever present. Yet others might respond with discomfort, eye rolls, deflection, or even ridicule. Over time, this teaches INFJs that their inner world is not safe to share, leading them to hide, to mask, or to retreat. And even though the rejection may be subtle, like laughter at the wrong time or a quick subject change when they open up, it wounds them just the same. In relationships, INFJs can also be rejected when they place emotional intimacy at the center, while others prioritize different kinds of bonding. INFJs tend to be all in emotionally. They want to know your story, your pain, your hopes. But if the other person is more casual or non-committal, whether romantically or platonically, this can create a painful mismatch. The INFJ might interpret a lack of depth as a lack of interest or care, and the other person might feel pressured by the emotional intensity, even if it's unspoken. The INFJ may pull away or appear distant, not out of spite, but as a quiet preservation of self. And when this happens, others might write them off as cold or overly complicated, without realizing how much emotional weight the INFJ had already been holding. Perhaps the most painful aspect of rejection for INFJs is that, despite their profound ability to understand and support others, they often don't receive the same in return. Their insight into others' emotional lives rarely results in others developing insight into theirs. They may spend years being the person others turn to in moments of crisis or transition, yet find themselves alone when they are the ones struggling. This one-sidedness isn't always malicious. Many people simply assume the INFJ is self-contained and fine. But the result is a subtle, constant sense of being needed but not truly known, appreciated but not embraced. This, too, is a form of rejection. INFJs are often rejected not because they are wrong or lacking, but because their way of being in the world is rare, complex, and misunderstood. Being an INFJ can be tough sometimes. That's why we have put together resources that will help you navigate your relationships, career, and the INFJ life in general with clarity. Check out our INFJ Mastery course and INFJ ebook. You can get them using the links in the description of this video.